Hello, it's only me, Jeff. I'm just going to go through this question for two reasons. First of all, because I want to show off with my new iPad pen, and also because it's relevant when it comes to one of the questions that you need to do for your exam. Okay? And it's to do what we call the impairment of assets. So for this particular question, which is very similar to what you'll need to do in your exam, it says the directors of Dorchester Limited are concerned that one of its machines might have become impaired. The following information applies. So impairment is basically where one of your assets has been impaired or devalued. So I'll give you an example. So in your assets, let's say you've got a van that you know is, say, cost about £10,000, but you know it's not worth that. So you know that the engine might be knackered or there's something wrong with it. So therefore you know that it's not worth what it says on the carrying value. The carrying value is the difference between the cost and the depreciation. That's the carrying value, the figure that goes into your statement of financial position. So what happens with this type of a question is we have to work out what we call the recoverable amount. So I'm going to go through that with you and explain, okay? Well, I'll show off with my pen at the same time, look. So anyway, it says, so the directors of Dorchester are concerned that one of its machines might have become impaired. The following information applies. So it basically says that the carrying value is 19,600, so therefore it will sit, it's in accounts. So let's put the asset as an example. So the asset in the balance sheet will sit there as a carrying value of 19,600, okay? But we know that it's not worth that because there's something wrong with it as such, or potentially something wrong with it, so they're not sure. So what we've got with the fair value, the cost of disposal, and what we call the value in use, okay? So the value in use is basically how much we would value the asset in its current state, so how well it is. So let me show you. So what we do is we do what we call the recoverable amount. I'll get used to the pen. It's the higher of what we call the value in use or the fair value, which is fair value is sort of like the everyday value of the asset. So fair value, so what it would be valued at. So value in use. But then we take off the cost to sell it. Watch base, cost to sell, okay? So that's what we call the recoverable amount. So in this example, we've got the fair value is 18,500. I can do it in a smart pen now. In fact, I'm going to rub that out. Again, I'm just doing it, A, to show off, but B, to show you how good this pen is. So the value in use is 18,400. And the fair value minus cost to sell. So we've got fair value, which is 18,500 minus the cost of disposal, which is £300, which gives us 18,200. Okay, so 18,200. So on that basis, the recoverable amount, the high one, is the value in use. So that's the figure we would use when it comes to recording it in the statement of financial position. So that's what it's worth, the recoverable amount. So on that basis, what we do is we've got the carrying amount, which is 19,600. And the value in use, or the recoverable amount, should I say, which is 18,400. which therefore means that we've got a loss of £1,200, okay? That will be the loss in relation to the value of the asset. So we will record 18,400 is what we would record the asset in the statement of financial position, okay? So again, that's what we call impairment of assets, which is IAS 36. We've got a few IAS questions that we're going to go through, and then that's what we do. So again, I'll go through this with you next week, or when I see you next. So that is an actual question, very similar to what you need to do in the exam. Okay, so let's see if I can move it without causing anything. So that's one of them. One of the other questions I'm going to take you through, this is the exam paper from last year, so I will send it to you. But this one, which is to do with inventory, IAS 2, okay? So IAS 2 is how we value stock. IAS 2 says that we value stock of higher of cost or net realisable value, okay? But in this example, as it said, we're basically going to determine what the closing value is of the valuation of 31st of May. So in this particular example, I've got the answer as well to save me from having to do the calculation. We have done this before, so some of you might remember. So let me show you what we do first. We work out what the table is first. So you have a look at what we've got. So on the 1st of May, we've not got any stock. But on the 8th of May, we've got 200 units, yeah, at £5. So 200 times 5 is, what's that? So, well, it doesn't make a difference really. So I'm going to show you. So we've got 200 units times 5 equals, and it's important to do the table so you can work out the overall cost. So 200 units at £5 each is £1,000. So you've got £1,000 of the stock that's coming in on the 8th of May. On the 13th of May, we bought another 400 units, okay, and this time it was at £5.60, which therefore means 400 times £5.60 is 2240. It's really important to do the tables first, because then you can work out up to the 13th of May how much stock has come in and what was the total cost. So up to the 13th of May, we've got 600 units, a total cost of 3,240. Okay, so now we've got the cost. And it tells us in the question, it wants to know what the closing inventories will be if we valued stock using the FIFO method, which is something we have discussed before, first in, first out, which tends to be, I've mentioned it, first in, first out is things like sandwiches. So the stock that comes in first is the stock that goes out first, because you don't want it to go out of date. There's another one called LIFO that we don't tend to use because it doesn't follow what we call the prudence concept, so it doesn't really leave what the actual value of the stock is. And so we don't use that one anymore, but there's also one called the weighted average. So I'm going to take you through both of them and how we calculate it. Okay, so up to the 13th of May, we've got 600 units at a total cost of £3,240. So this is stock coming in, okay? On the 20th of May, we sold 300 units at £8 each. The £8 is just trying to confuse you because it doesn't make any difference, because we want to know what the closing value of the stock is. So we sold 300 units. And what we need to work out, so which stock came in first, was one on the 8th of May, and then we've got some on the 13th of May. So therefore, the way we do the calculation is, as far as FIFO is concerned, so 300 units are what's being sold. And first in, first out is the 200. So I'm going to use the 200 first. So 200 times 5 equals 1,000. But I still need another 100 units. I've used those 200, but I still need another 100. So I'm going to have to take those from the stock that came in on the 13th of May. So we'll take 100 of those, and they were valued at £5.60. okay? Which gives me 1,560. So 1,560, is that right? No, dopey bugger. See, because I'm reading it wrong. It's obvious, isn't it? I should know better. So 100 times £5.60 is obviously 560 quid. Just testing. So therefore the actual total value of the issue, so this is called the issue, so the stock going out, is 1,560. So that was the cost of the issue. The important thing so far as we're concerned is the closing stock figure. So therefore the closing inventory is the cost. So we had £3,240 of the stock that came in up to the 13th of May. And on the 20th of May, the stock that we issued out, so those 300 units, cost 1,560. So therefore the closing value is £1,680. Okay? So again, that's what we call the first in, first out. So closing value 1,680, and the cost of the issue is 1,560. And we don't have to do it, but I'll show you anyway. If it was LIFO, just out of interest, if it was LIFO, when what stock came in last on the 13th of May, it was, so we're still 300 units that are being issued out. But this time, if we're going last in, first out, we've already got, we can use some of those 400 that we've got. So these 400 units here, we can use those. So I'm going to go 300 times £5.60. Yeah, because that's the stock that came in last. So again, just let me see what that works out to be. I'll just check on my calculator. So 300 times £5.60. Actually, so £1,680. That's what the cost of the issue would be if it was last in, first out. The value of the stock on that basis will be 3,240 minus 1,680, which gives us a closing stock figure of 1,560. Okay. Just out of interest, you'll notice, which is really important in the way that we value our stock. I'll get another colour now. Let's do this grey one. So these figures here, stock valuation, this figures what goes in your current assets, in your statement of financial position, your closing stock figure. So how you value it is really, really important because it's an asset. And you can't chop and change in the way that you want to. So that's so the way you value it is really, really important. The other one which you need to do is what they call the weighted average or the weighted cost. So this one is just another method, but this time all we do for the weighted cost is we do 3,240, which is the cost of the stock, divided by the 600. Okay, so 3,240 divided by 600. Let me just work that out anyway. I'm not going to round it up or round it down because it's easy just to 3,240 divided by 600 equals, it actually works out to be £5.40. So the average value of the stock is 540, and all we simply do is multiply it by the 300 that's being issued out. So £5.40 times 300 equals 1620. Yeah? It's only 5 marks, this question, but anyway, you'll be fine when it comes to practice. So weighted average, or the average cost, is therefore 1,620 is the cost of the issue. Again, going back to the closing value, so 3,240 minus 1,620 which therefore gives us a closing stock figure of 1,620. It's half, isn't it? Yeah? Okay. So again, this is very similar to a question you'll need to in the exam. I don't think yours has got as many calculations to do, but again, I'll make sure you've got some clear guidance and structure in relation to what it is you need to do. So on that basis, that's it. So I've done a couple of questions that will be just little questions in your exam, but again, really quite handy. And not only that, as I said before, it also gives me the opportunity to show off my pen. Look, I feel like drawing pictures now. There we go. Okay, enjoy, and I'll speak to you soon. I'll send out this exam paper as well for you to practice with the corresponding video. Speak to you soon. Bye.